5. It was raining the next morning when Rael came to his father's tent. He stood for a moment and stared blindly at the wet canvas, letting the water cut channels into the red-brown mud that caked his armor. The lines etched into the pale skin about his mouth and the purple bruises beneath his eyes in which the green fires had all but died, bore eloquent testimony to the night's work. He had never looked less like his mother. The guard before the entrance saluted and stood aside, but Glenna, standing guard within the canvas walls, could not be so easily passed. She folded her arms on her chest and blocked the way. "The king finally sleeps. Anything you have to say can wait." "I have news of the war." "No doubt," she said dryly. "But I don't care if the war is over. You may not wake him." "The war is over." Her eyes widened. She looked down at the dried blood that stained his sword hilt, so thick in places that it filled the hollows in the ornate scrollwork. Then she stepped aside. "Don't allow him to become excited," she cautioned as Rael passed. "If he opens the wound again—" Her words trailed off, but the meaning was clear. When Rayen had left his bed and reopened the wound, it had infected, swelling and putrefying. From a serious, although hardly fatal injury, it had grown to be dangerously life-threatening. Glenna, however, refused to admit defeat, draining, cleaning, cauterizing, and pouring potion after potion down the king's throat. 3 times she forced Lord Death away, and in the end, she won. The king lived. But under the scented smoke that eddied around the inner room, the smell of rot remained. "Less than a week," thought Rael, looking down at his father. How could he change so much in less than a week? As the war had aged Rael, the wound had aged Rayen. Flesh hung from his bones as if it belonged to another man, and the lines of his face were now furrows. Not even the most loving son could deny that the king had grown old.